go ahead and open up Photoshop. And like the previous two tutorials, I want you to go to File, New, and change the preset to Web. Leave the size at minimum and click OK. So first thing we're going to do is select the text tool, change your font to about 120. And you can just simply click 120. Mine is at default because I've already done it. And type in your name or whatever you want to use. Next, you want to click the Layers tab. Make sure you have your name selected or whatever text you use. Click the 3D tab and click 3D Extrusion radio button and click Create. I'm just going to hit Command plus to zoom in a little. So what we have is 3D text, and just like what I told you last time, I'm going to click to use the rotate tool so you can kind of get an idea of what extrusion does, and it just takes a flat surface and extends it out to make a 3D shape. So zoom out a little bit with Command minus, and you notice that I've moved the shape around. So if you want to get it to the default view, you can just click over here in the Properties panel on the Coordinates tab. And all right, 1 second.
Sure. I'll just
So in order to get this image back to its original position, what you can do is go over to your Properties panel, click the fourth button, which is the Coordinates tab, and what you see here is the settings that it is currently at. So I'm going to zoom out just so you can see what I'm actually doing. But what you want to do is hit the reset coordinates. And as you see, it reset the text back to its original position. And if you want to place it on the ground level, then you can just go over to the Properties panel and click Move to Ground. All right, so now I will show you how to manipulate the mesh. So you want to go over here in the Properties panel, select the Mesh button, which is the first button, and first thing I want to show you is how to change the presets. So you can do excuse my clicking, I'm moving a little fast. Just going to move this out of the way. All right, so you can use bevel, which if we zoom in, so I'm just hitting Command plus. If you look at the edges, you can kind of see the different presets: bevel frame, bevel contour. And simply just click off the text to, so kind of hard to see, but what I'm going to do is go over here in the Properties panel and change the color of the text. I like red, so I'm just going to do a dark red. So Now, if you notice, the face of the letters have a slight kind of curve to it, so this can all be changed with the properties and the mesh. So the next thing I want to show you, which you can zoom to so that you can see the top of the letters, is the extrusion depth, which is in the properties panel. And as you drag it to the right, it extends it backwards. And if you drag to the left with a negative value, it extends it forward. So now that we've done all of that, next thing I want to show you is how to deform the mesh. So as before, if you want to return it to its default value, then you can go to the properties panel, click on the mesh and reset coordinates, and then just go back to the deform, which is the second tab under the properties. So okay, reset. All right, so under here we have the extrusion depth, which is what we just saw. We have twist, which twists the letters, and we have taper, which makes the back end of the image go smaller or wider out. And then we have bend, which bends the letters, and shear, which kind of just distorts them. So first thing I want to look at is the twist. So I'm just going to reset my coordinates. All right, so the twist, which is over here, so I'm just going to drag the lever to the right, and as you see, it kind of twists. It's kind of cool, and what it does is it twists the part of the text that's extruded, so you can still see the front part of the letters. So go back to 0, and I'm going to twist it to the left, and it just twists the opposite way. The taper, which is kind of hard to see from the front view, but what it does is the more you go to the left, it widens the back. So we can drag to the top view and kind of see how it's no longer straight, it spreads out. And the more you go to the right, the left, it goes back to a vanishing point, and then the right, it like stretches it out. So I'm just going to go up to the top of the properties panel, click reset deformation, go to the coordinates, reset coordinates, and we're going to move on to the next thing, which is the bend. I have two options: horizontal angle and a vertical angle. So the first thing we're going to work with is the horizontal angle. So you want to drag the horizontal to the right, and if you notice, you want to drag down a little bit. That kind of bends the extruded text towards the right. If you go to the left, it just does the opposite. So you want to set that back at 0. And we're going to do the same thing with the vertical, which is right underneath it. And from the vertical, you might want to look from a side view and notice that it just bends it back and forth. So now that we're done looking at all of the different options, we want to go back up to the properties panel, reset the deformation. Click on the next button, which is the cap tab. And before you do that, I'm going to reset the coordinates. And so what you see up here in the properties is the view from which you're looking at it. And right underneath the view is going to show what type of preset you have. Since I have the bevel pops up. And right here you can change the width or the angle, and also the different type of contour. So let's start by looking at the image. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the width. Just knock it up to about 30%. So if you notice, you can see that the face kind of rises up out of the edge. So you better look at it from the side or the top. And I'm just going to reset the coordinates. And so the more you go out, the bigger the face is. So if you notice, when I go all the way down to 0, it looks like plain text. But the more I go up, the more space you see on the edges, until eventually it looks like it disappears. So for the angle, you might want to turn it to the side. You notice that angle works on the face. So the less you do, the more it kind of angles in and goes away. But the higher you raise it, the more it comes out and angles out. So we can, working in linear, let's look at cone. So if you notice that the cone is gonna, what I'm doing is I'm just changing the angle. About 22%. You notice the cone, which is over here under the contour, versus cone inverted. And what it does is it just changes the type of face that you have. So, you know, if you want it more rounder, you can do curved, more straight, you can do linear. It's really up to you. You'll have to play around with all the different settings. And the strength, just how much shows of the face. So if you notice, it kind of just stands out more. It's kind of curvy. The edges are like sharp. And it gives it a more just stronger look. But if you notice, if you go too far, you kind of have like overlapping areas where it just looks kind of messy. So you want to avoid going too far in the strength area. So if any time you don't like the changes that you made, you can just simply go under the properties panel and click reset deformation. It sends it back. You can go to the coordinates, reset the coordinates, and it sends it back to its original image. And that is all today for 3D text extrusion and how to manipulate it. Thank you.